Welcome back. I'm David the Good. This last weekend, I spent some time with Noah Sanders at the Redeeming the Dirt conference, which is focused on sustainable agriculture and looking at the world as something that we should be taking care of and as our Father's world, not as something we should be just tearing to pieces and using for our own benefit completely. So it's a beautiful conference and there were a lot of wonderful people there, but there was something that happened, a demonstration that Noah did that was totally astounding, and he allowed me to film it, and so I have to share it with you today.
Okay, so we have two clods of dirt here, and one of them's plowed and one of them's unplowed. Can you guess which is which?
Right hand is plowed.
Plowed.
Unplowed.
Okay. What are some of the differences that you can see?
Mycelium.
Different colors.
Yep, you can see like some, what did you say, mycelium?
Mycelium.
Yep, some fungus, some life in this one. Which one looks harder?
The red
Right
one.
hand.
The red one.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. This one I'm trying not to break it into pieces, okay? This one is from soil that was loosened and into like a seed bed, pulverized in a sense, you know, until like what we consider nice garden soil to plant in, right? Just like that. And then it dried, and when it dried, we collected this clod. This was right out of undisturbed soil. What happens when these clods come into contact with water? Now I'm going to take these clods. What do you think is going to happen when I put the plowed clod in the water?
It's gonna
Not much.
break.
It's going to break? What do y'all think?
The sink.
The sink?
Sink. Sink. Sink.
What do you think, Eli?
I don't know, maybe float, I don't know.
Float?
Gonna make a different color?
Color? What do y'all think is going to happen to the
Break.
unplowed clod?
Break.
It'll float and break.
Float and break? All right, y'all ready? Okay, y'all get where you can see, okay? 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Wow.
Disintegrating.
that's crazy.
What do y'all notice?
Oh my gosh.
Washing away.
That does not hold. That does not hold water. Now it's the color of your shirt.
Wow. That's
I was
crazy.
thinking it would go ka-chunk.
All right, I'm going to drop it in.
That one sinks.
Thank you, guys.
No.
All right, so I'm going to take this around so you
Really,
can see
yeah,
it.
that was awesome. Yeah. Wow.
So one thing I want you to notice is notice the top of the water. You see all the foam on top of this one? See how it's not on the other? So this clod here, even though it's more crumbly than the plowed clod, it's being held together by all these glues that the microbes make, which is like when you decompose things, the final product is humic acid. It's one of them. And that humic acid glues together all the particulate in that soil. And so it's water stable. So even though it's loose and friable, it doesn't dissolve in water. Now this has been, the structure of this soil has been destroyed, and a lot of the life, by pulverizing it. And what happened when the water came into contact with it is the leftover humic acid that was still in it is now on the top, floating on top of the water. And then what's going to happen? It's going to wash away. It's the humic acid. You've just lost it. It's dissolved in the water and it's going to wash away. Whereas you see none of that foam on the top here. Also, the plowed clod here was hard, but it was only being held together by compaction and by being dried, you know? So soil is not just a list of ingredients. It is also has like assembly instructions. It has structure to it. And the structure enables it to function properly. So it's like if you're going to have somebody build your house, you don't just say, here's a materials list, go for it. Because a pile of lumber and materials is not a house. it has to have certain structure. So good soil has structure like this. And we tend to think that good garden soil is like flour. It's fine, it's loose, you can work it. But good garden soil is actually like bread. Because what happens is if you just, the soil, the microbes in the soil are like the yeast in bread, you know, that make it rise and make it airy and give it structure. If you take water and you, first of all, it's really hard to mix water into flour, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you accidentally set the end of your loaf of bread in some water on the counter, what happens? Sucks it all up, right? If you wet flour and then you let it dry, what do you have?
Concrete.
Hardtack.
Yeah, for sure.
This is like hardtack, you know? It was wet and then it dried. And does anybody know from all your cool off-grid preppy kind of research how to make bricks?
Yes.
How do you make bricks?
Clay.
Yeah.
And straw.
You take soil, you pulverize it, you add water and mix it up, and you set it in the sun to bake. Well, with these clay soils, when we pulverize it and then it gets rained on and then the sun comes out and we go out and we're like, man, there's this hard like pottery kind of layer on the top of my soil, this crust. I've got to kind of break it up. Well, it's because we've just made a layer of brick on the entire top of our garden that is was originally loose because it was like that flour, but what we really wanted is this bread kind of consistency that at times may seem hard. We're standing on this right here. We're not just going and sinking in, you know. It supports us, but the water also goes in. So good structured soil has, it's hard when it's dry, just like a sponge, kitchen sponge is hard when it's dry. But it doesn't mean that it's compacted. Does that make sense? There's a difference between compaction and just being dry and hard, because anything that's dry and loose tends to wash away and be unstable. But what happens to a sponge once you get it wet? It's soft again, right? Same thing with soil. It gets soft again. So don't be surprised if you go into your garden and it's hard if it's dry. That's what it's supposed to be.
So till versus no till, we can see the damage that tilling a clay soil does when it dries up and becomes like a brick, like Noah demonstrated. It's pretty astounding how it just completely and utterly falls apart like an Alka-Seltzer tablet when it hits the water. That's astounding. And those natural glues that are created by fungi and bacteria that hold the soil together, it's pretty astounding, and you do lose that when you till. So am I completely now into the no-till realm? Well, let me just say that Noah is pretty convincing. However, I do think that there's a time when you got to get food on the table and you might want to just till an area up and put in some single row gardens and, you know, work with your wheel hoe and that sort of thing. But it is very compelling, particularly if you're dealing with a soil that is prone to compaction and gluing together, and then runoff and all that sort of stuff. The things that you're skipping, the problems that you're avoiding by not tilling the soil, there's something to be said for it. So I just had to share that with you. I thought it was really, really cool, and I would love to hear what your comments are below. So leave a note below, and if you want to learn more about Noah, I will put links to what he's doing as well. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green.